What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your man Noah, man. We back for the SNT Podcast. We got an intersection of sports and culture. I got some good fellas with me this evening. My dog AD, we got LES, and we got the big dog Lucius with us this evening. Make sure you guys tap in, repping the gang properly. See Commission, grow your merch, man. Rep the gang properly. Check us out over on Clubhouse. Shout out to Smooth over there doing this thing for S&T. Best moderator on the app. See us across all social media platforms, S&T Sports, sitandtalksports.com. See us on Facebook where the essence of this thing began, man, and see all the good shit we got going on. We're going to get right into some sports this evening, fellas. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. What's going on in Golden State, yo? There seems to be an issue going on in Golden State. They got they ran into the Don last night. Luka went a little crazy, brought him back from, I think they was down 26. Luka brought him back for the W. Klay Thompson didn't play, but nonetheless, they should have got that dub. Second best record in the league. They shouldn't be blowing 26-point leads. Talk to me about Golden State, Commissioner. What are you seeing from them? Is it a chink in the armor, or what's going on? What can we expect from them?
NBA team, they lost. I don't think it's nothing to panic about. And then they got Luka, and then they got a bad boy named Spencer over there with him. You're not supposed to blow those type of leads, but when you're playing amongst the world's greatest players, that type of shit happens. So, I wouldn't panic too much. I think Golden State's still in a good position, whether they're in first, second, third. But yeah, I don't think it's nothing to panic about. I truly didn't see I seen a little bit of the highlights. I was dozing off. But, Luka's the Don for a reason. So,
Luka doing Luka things. Okay. LES, man, talk to me about what you saw last night. Talk to me about what you've been seeing in Golden State. Obviously, they held the 1 seed for the majority of the season. They have since relinquished it to the Phoenix Suns. Memphis is right on their ass. So what do you see going on in there? Is there a conflict, or are they just losing games against good teams? Or anytime I see that big of a lead given up, that's not championship quality. That's not championship caliber play. And Steph at this point in his career shouldn't be relinquishing double-digit leads late into the game like that. Talk to me about Golden State. What are you seeing?
Well, I think there's two issues with Golden State, and they're issues that can be fixed potentially. At least one of them can. And the one that I know that can be fixed is I don't think they played that hard yesterday or the other night. They've been playing kind of hard, some like in a quarter for a game, a half. They haven't been putting solid play hard 48 minutes over the last 12 games, I think, in my humble opinion. I think they're like 5-5. No, they are 5-5 because I looked it up this morning. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So they've been playing 500 ball. So and then you take that without Green there. Now, I've made this comment a few times about Draymond. I think he's the point forward of that team. He's not a true power forward. He's the point forward of that team. The offense goes through him a lot as far as setting Steph up and everyone else, and he's gone. They don't have that person there, and he's also their tough guy. He's also the yeller, the screamer, the hacker. He does all those things. And I think that intensity gone is kind of why they're like this right now.
Fair points for real. AD, give us your take, man. What are you seeing in Golden State? Should we be worried, or are they going to figure this thing out?
I wouldn't be worried. It's definitely not the panic button either. They are 2-5 in their last 7 games, but let's hit on it. When you have guys of the caliber of Klay Thompson in and out the lineup, no Draymond, there's going to be lacks of consistency, and that's what they're going through right now. I think that, like Les said, once Draymond comes back, he's the anchor of their defense. He's also the anchor of their offense. Guys won't have to do as much. Even Steph, even Klay, they could concentrate on more scoring than playmaking. I think they're going to be fine. For them, as long as they finish in the top 3, they're going to be okay. I think. I'm not worried at all about Golden State, and that's mostly because of their health.
Mm-hmm. Definitely has some key pieces missing. Anytime that particular team is missing Draymond Green, they're suffering on both ends of the floor. Obviously, a defensive player of the year. Obviously, the anchor for them on defense. Obviously, he leads that dynasty in assists, and he's their facilitator. He makes the thing go. Obviously, he's not Steph or Clay in terms of scoring prowess, but in terms of just importance, in terms of significance, there's no real conversation about Golden State without Draymond. He galvanizes that team on both ends of the floor. He's easily the leader of that team, and without him, you can definitely see some of the lapses.
No, Steph's the leader.
No, Steph is definitely not the leader.
Steph is definitely the leader of that team.
Steph is not close to being the leader. No one's listening to Steph while he's wiggling around. Like no one's. Steph isn't yet. Steph ain't barking on nobody, and people be like, "All right, I hear you."
I don't. I'm not saying Draymond's not a voice over in that team, because he is. I'm pretty sure everybody listens to him, but Steph's the leader.
Let me remind you, DC.
What Steph says goes.
No, Steph don't say nothing. Steph wiggles.
No, Steph don't say nothing. We don't see him say nothing.
Because he don't say nothing.
That team rallies behind him for a certain reason.
That team does not rally behind a guy who's winning 3 finals and has no finals MVPs.
Yo.
Let's move on, man.
I'm just saying. I'm telling you what it is.
Let's move on, man, because you think the team's following a guy that couldn't average 10 fucking points when those two big guys are out. Man. Let's just move on, man.
He's a leader.
Let's move on.
Steph does what Draymond tells him to do.
Let's move on, bro.
Wiseman is missing as well. Wiseman is missing as well. I don't know. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of hype at the beginning of the season. Golden State was killing. They were rolling. They didn't have Clay. Clay comes back. They get another shot in the arm. They're rolling. People are reminiscent of this dynasty that began 6 to 7 years ago. I was never sold on the idea that they were going to return to that level of play. I'm still not, quite frankly. I don't.
49-12.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but when you look at the West is a 3-team race. The West is only a 3-team race. There's only 3 teams to worry about in the West. Mm-hmm. Which kind of brings us into my next subject, man. We've kind of hinted at it for the last couple of shows. Denver released a statement today. Michael Porter Jr. will be back this month after his 3rd back surgery of his career. Obviously, a guy that young with 3 major back surgeries isn't very promising. But a lot of speculation was surrounding him not returning this year. It looks like the kid worked his ass off in rehab. He will be back in the rotation this month. They're expecting Jamal Murray to be back April 1st. That's a healthy Denver team, man. And I mean, Jokic won the MVP last year. All of his metrics are off the charts this year. He's having a better season by the numbers this year than he did last year. Big salute to what Joker is doing over there in Denver. But when they get full strength, man, I think this easily becomes now a 4-team race. Obviously, you would want Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. to have a little more time so they can redevelop that continuity, get into the flow of that offense, get their games, legs, and lungs back. But I'll tell you what, come May 1st, and they played a month of games together, a guy like Jamal Murray, who Jokic went on record yesterday saying, I miss him. I really, really miss him. They get healthy, man. I'm going to be honest with you. No one's going to want to play a healthy Denver team. This is the same.
So who's your 4 teams? Who's the 4 teams?
Memphis, Phoenix, Golden State. It'll be Denver if Denver can get healthy. That's the only 4 teams in the West.
Denver's good. Denver's good if they get healthy, but we're not.
I knew that was coming.
DC, I appreciate you.
But you always trying to big up teams. You always trying to dismiss our us being unhealthy, bro. I don't get that.
Your team has dismissed itself.
No, let's just be honest, yo. Like, our team has not been healthy the entire season. Like, I don't need to sugarcoat anything. Like, you got to stop doing this, though. You got to stop doing this on the show. Like, you did this with Golden State before, like some shows ago, and we talked about this. And it was like, damn, bro, like, you just be taking shots. So it's like, I wanted to know.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a shot, DC. You have the 4th oldest team in history.
Injuries I get it. I get it.
This is that old Murray with a freak injury.
Listen,
old guys.
LeBron was almost this old when he won it a year or 2 ago. So all I'm saying is, if you're gonna acknowledge Denver's injuries, acknowledge ours too.
It's getting hot up.
Because if we was full strength, it'll be 5 teams.
Oh,
but okay.
Are you guys going to be full strength for the playoffs? Are you guys? I mean, do you guys make the playoffs?
We got a bozo as the leader, so.
Oh, I mean, he's having arguably the greatest season 19 season ever,
and he can't even carry nobody because he couldn't handpick his team.
No, well, I thought he did. I thought
he handpicked this one. He
definitely handpicked this one.
He did not handpick this one.
He asked for Westbrook.
He wanted Westbrook.
He wanted Westbrook. This is what he thought.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen Brooklyn.
He got Harden. Yep, and he wanted to. Yep, that's it.
That's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
I said that from the jump.
Westbrook does not fit that man's game. He did not want Westbrook. It was just a shot to Westbrook go at Kyrie, him go at. He was looking at the bigger picture down the line.
Right.
And it didn't work the way his dumb ass thought it was going to go.
So he wanted Westbrook because of those reasons.
No, he wanted those just for like, what do you call it? Cool points. Whatever you want to say. Like,
no, he wanted them for the club. He wanted them for the
just for chicks and giggles type of like to battle. Like that man didn't fit him. He wanted
the star power.
That's you know what I'm saying. Like he didn't fit him.
He had a shiny new toy. He felt he needed one too.
Yeah.
That's all it was. But the fit was never there, man.
He had Kyrie. KD got his old teammate. He got KD's old teammate. That's all this shit's about.
Yeah,
it's soap opera.
It would have been cute. It would have been real cute if we both made it there. It would have been real cute. Real quick, DC. I haven't checked the numbers on it, man. Obviously, the money side of the thing is what makes this work. Why didn't y'all make a play for Dame? Dame and Russ make about the same amount of money.
I don't think Dame wanted to go.
You don't think so? You don't think
I think I believe him when he was like on some like I don't want to be playing with all these dudes. I believe that. I don't think he wants to do that.
Okay.
I really don't believe that was ever in his heart to go do that. I don't.
He's gonna have to do it eventually. He's 31.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely gonna have to do it.
And he's only gonna look silly for waiting this long.
He took the KG route. He thugged it out. He stayed loyal.
He's the same age as KG was when KG slid over to Boston when he waited.
I'm glad y'all brought that up.
He stayed loyal, but
I think the problem, DC, is he got exposed in those Olympics, man. That physical brand of basketball had him looking real shaky. He came back looking shaky, and then he conveniently shut it down to save his stock.
Yeah,
man, that wasn't none of this.
Exactly.
I don't know what was going on up there. But
Dame fit LeBron perfectly.
Spacing, shooting, that's it. Like I don't know why Dame wasn't I mean, you got to think LeBron and AD have enough cachet to be like Dame. You're playing.
That's why I feel like it was a super duper soap opera. Like Dame wasn't part of the whole Kyrie, LeBron, KD battle thingy. So it was
I
like
honestly don't think. If LeBron, AD, Magic Johnson, and whomever fly up to Portland and go sit in Dame Lillard's living room and said, brother, here's the vision. We need you. I don't think Dame lets all four of those dudes walk up out of there and be like, nah, I'm all set. That's not for me. I'm going to just sit here in Portland and rock. And then they got CJ up out of there?
Exactly.
There's no way. And Dame had to know CJ was on the move. But I don't want to get too lost in that, fellas. I definitely want to get AD and Les. We're talking about Denver. Denver is scheduled to be full strength in the next 30 days. What does that mean for Denver? Obviously, it helps Jokic. The usage of Jokic is through the roof right now. He's having a better season than he was last year as an MVP. What does Denver look like at full strength? Fellas, talk to me. Les, we'll start with you.
I think it's all going to depend on how functional they are when they come back. Is Murray going to feel right? Is he going to have confidence in his body? A back's a funny thing. No,
it's Murray's knee. Murray's knee is messed up.
No, I was moving on to Porter because, Porter, back's a funny thing. But if they're healthy and they're confident, sky's the limit. Murray's a bad man. Mm-hmm. Like we saw what he did against Utah. We saw what he's capable of. We seen what Porter can do. It would be like it's like getting a trade and not trading anybody. So if those guys are healthy, I think they'll be fine. But I'm curious to know, because I've seen this with the Celtics, are any of the other guys who have stepping up and helping Denver play the way they are playing, because they're not playing really bad, they're not playing really great, but they're playing pretty good. Are those guys going to feel a way about, because they're going to have to take a step back now?
They're not going to feel a way.
They can't feel a way because They understand that their opportunity is based on injury. It's not. I mean, this isn't a showcase. This isn't a talent show for you to move up the ranks.
Right.
You are not taking Jamal Murray's spot, and you're not
Exactly.
taking. I mean, they pay Murray and they pay Porter way too much for any one of those dudes in that roster to take their spot.
Right.
Oh, I hope that's the case.
No, that's going to be the case.
Well,
they get their ass shipped out if they don't think that's the case.
Right.
Exactly.
You're talking about $100 million worth of salary between Porter. I mean, Porter's making what, almost 30 now, and Murray's going to be making almost. You're talking about almost.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, you're talking about $75 million in paychecks for the year. Those dudes ain't getting their food taken by nobody on that team. AD, I've been waiting for your take on this, man. I know you shook your head a little bit. Talk to me about what this means for Denver, and are they in fact a contender if they're fully healthy?
I don't really give two fucks about Denver, to be honest with you.
We appreciate you.
I mean, I fuck with Jamal Murray. Joker's nasty. Porter, I was a fan of him in high school. I don't know if he's ever going to be healthy enough to sustain a full season, but the kid got a lot of talent, man. But yeah, I'm just not big on Denver. I just think they just don't finish it. Like, I just don't see them finishing the big games for me.
I mean, not for nothing, AD.
I know.
Watch them come back from down 3-1 twice. It take a lot of moxie, a lot of balls, a lot of faith, a lot of game to come back from 3-1 in any playoff series, but then to do it twice and do it against the caliber of guys that were doing it against. They didn't do it against scrubs.
You're right.
Be the favorite in the West, who was Kawhi and PG, fully healthy.
Yeah.
Took their 3-1 lead, rolled it, and smoked it.
Yeah.
And to have that, and to go through that experience, I think obviously winning, is the best thing. But even losing, gaining that kind of experience and seeing what they did wrong in that series, I think those dudes, and I mean not for nothing, those dudes get a month of practice and building harmony amongst each other. Those are fresh legs coming into the playoffs.
Yeah,
they ain't got to see mileage. Jamal Murray's young enough that an ACL isn't going to, cripple him. Obviously, the big thing is Porter's back. But if these guys are healthy, man, I don't know. That West looks completely different.
So let me ask you this, Noah. What you just said, right? Didn't that happen in the bubble?
Yeah, but I mean, they ran into the Lakers, right?
No, but that happened in the bubble, right? That was 2 years ago. Nobody gives a fuck about what happened 2 years ago. Why you didn't talk about what happened to him last year in the playoffs?
Because he tore his ACL.
Yeah, but Porter didn't.
I mean,
doesn't matter. Jamal did.
Jamal Murray did.
Jamal
Murray was
Jamal big time in playoffs.
Right.
I give y'all that.
Nothing.
I'll give y'all that.
Respects to Joker, but it was Murray that was really going berserk when they were
It was him and Donovan going back and forth. I get it.
Yeah. So losing Jamal hurts real bad.
But like, we can't keep staying on what they did 2 years ago. Like, I need to see what the fuck y'all gonna do now, and that's why I don't really give a fuck about them until I see them. Like, I gotta see them.
Well, the whole premise is hypothetical, AD. Obviously, we don't know what it looks like. I'm saying Jamal Murray. Say Jamal Murray's at 90%. Say Michael Porter Jr. is at 90%. I don't want to play them if I'm anybody in the West. I definitely don't.
Right.
Because I mean, not for nothing, and Les touched on this. They've been getting good balance, man. I mean, the dude Will Barton,
right? Will Barton just had 36, but then that also touches on Les's points. Now the others who had all this confidence, you know what I mean, are gonna go.
Nobody on that team is gonna be in their feelings.
Hold on, no, DC, hold on, big bro. It's not about the feelings, big bro. It's about now when y'all come in. Those shots are more pressured now. Those shots are more pressured by the others. Yes, they are. Because that leash is going to get pulled even faster now.
No, they should be more comfortable now.
Comfortable, right.
That's what everybody thinks. But when you're playing and then your actual thinking, because some of them are actually going to think like, yo, I could still steal some more minutes. And then they're going to be pressing on those shots. Y'all are not thinking about that either. What about Jamal?
Agree with that.
I don't agree with that.
No, you don't have to, but we've seen it though. We've seen it.
I think I think Denver is a team, to me, what it looks like. I think they have three dominant players. Mm-hmm. They have three players everyone knows the ball's going to. I think they have a clear understanding of who gets their shots, who's stepping up for right now, and who's going to be stepping down for when they come back. I think they truly got understanding of that over there.
And I think even beyond that, DC, I think this opportunity really gave those other guys an opportunity to truly kind of showcase some of that. They got 7 guys averaging 10 or more points. The Denver Nuggets have 7 guys averaging 10 or more points.
Ego's a terrible thing, man.
They've been doing that for 4 years, fellas. We've been really calling Denver the deepest team in the NBA for the last 3 or 4 years, fam.
But it's looked a lot different. I mean, they just added Aaron Gordon 2 years ago. Jamal Murray blows his ACL last year. The whole thing looks different with all these moving pieces. But more importantly, Will Barton went out there last night knowing he might have to score 25.
Yo, just know, man.
That team is healthy. Will Barton now knows that he doesn't have to score 25 or anywhere near it. So I think the pressure decreases when they're fully healthy. I think those other guys can play more in their true roles. Will Barton had 36 last night.
I know. Will Barton
that much or have another 30 ball for the rest of this year and for the rest of his tenure in Denver, as long as that nucleus is healthy. So I think it takes pressure off of them. You know, when you're Will Barton and scoring 30 isn't your forte, but now you have to, now you're asked to, now you're kind of maybe expected to. I think that's a lot more pressure than saying, okay, I got Jamal, I got Mike, I got Jokic. Now I can just get into my flow of the game how I'm used to. But
Barton's game is the same. Like, his game doesn't change. He's gonna get the ball and he's gonna score. That's what he does. He scores 15 or 18 points with Jamal Murray, without Jamal Murray. That's what he does. He always has those games where he goes for 36. That's what he do.
I don't. But what I'm saying is he won't be expected to. Like he's their second leading scorer throughout this tenure. He's averaging, I believe, 16, 17 a game. He's expected to do that. With a full team, he's not expected to do that. He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do that to help them.
All right.
In all actuality, like when their game is being played, he's a 4th or 5th option.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we'll see. But my point is,
we'll see.
Ego's a terrible thing sometimes, man.
I'm trying to tell you, because Will Barton is one of those.
Yeah, but Will Barton has been on that team already. He's not going to have an ego.
Right. But
he went from the starter to the bench.
Guys, he has had an ego. He has.
Wasn't he a starter, AD, and they benched him?
I put it like this. I hope he does have an ego, and then he'll just get traded. Honestly, that's what's going to happen to him.
Right. It's Will Barton, dog.
Right. Like, if you actually think you're better than Jamal Murray, nigga, then
it's not. Later. It's not. Yo, I agree with all y'all. Like, I'm not saying Will Barton's on the level of Jamal Murray.
I'm definitely not saying that too.
But it's the
he might think that now.
Now it's the egos of, like, you know, being in the midst of it. Like, you might start feeling yourself a little bit more, and then those shots are more pressured. You know what I mean?
Hey, maybe I'm just
because you got those other 3 guys on the court. That's what I mean by it's more pressure.
Yeah, maybe I'm just jilted from seeing Terry Rozier thinking that he deserved to play more than Kyrie Irving. So I don't know. I mean, anything's possible.
I mean, there's only one way to find out, fellas. We got the playoffs looming, man. I want to get into the a very, very kind of scary looking team after 2 games. James Harden and Embiid look like they grew up together. You know
I don't know why anybody thought it would be any different. Them two together, if they had enough years, they can be on some Shaq and Kobe shit. They can be measured to those type of duos.
Right.
If they just play together long enough, they're going to be that good together.
I mean, I saw some of them plays in that Knicks game. James Harden's making no-look passes behind him in rhythm, like knowing where Embiid is, like getting the ball to him at the right spaces. Like that's one of the things that you hear really elite point guards talk about. Like LeBron talks about how certain shooters like the laces, how they like placement of the ball, left hip, right hip. To kind of put that together as quickly as they did, that shit looks scary.
You're putting one of the best guards in the world with Embiid, yo.
Right.
Like, them motherfuckers is going to be. I don't care who Brooklyn gave up. Them two with everybody else is going to go crazy over there. Don't give a fuck who else is over there on that team.
That shit looks fun. Them brothers is out there hooping, and it looks real fun.
And James Harden knows how to throw those floaters. You can't D them up one-on-one, either one of them. Like,
it was
man, they're about to fuck the league up.
It was so nice to see Joel get so many easy buckets yesterday. James is just light dimes, easy bucket, not working for it, no extra movement. easy fucking bucket after bucket. That shit look kind of scary. I ain't gonna hold you, man. AD, you got the somebody farted face on. What you thinking, man? What do you think about this new look Philly team?
No, I was impressed. I'm impressed with it. You know what I mean? Anytime, right?
Les got the somebody farted face on.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Anytime, right?
Definitely.
yo, anytime, right? When you're 2-star players, right, combine to go to the free throw line 40 times, that's a problem.
You in position. That's gonna pay dividends times.
Joel went to the line 27 times and made 24.
That's impressive.
You know what I mean?
Yo, them niggas, that was an immediate scary trade.
James Harden, right? What he looks like, right, is the same way he looked like when he went to Brooklyn last year. Rejuvenated, ready to hoop.
He ain't like our strip clubs in New York. We ain't got to.
He look like he got a little skinny.
Y'all got the bartenders though.
I'm like, yo, cut.
He went out with Meek Mill, Dirk, and the baby. The other night.
He had the dirt bikes in front of
and then went to practice that morning.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Like Hennessy and regrets. Man.
No, I'm impressed with Philly, man. For me, it's not about short term with Philly. Everything's about long term with Philly. So, I think every team in the NBA is predicated on health, man. Yeah. Like,
that was
according to Noah, they
like as long as Joel stays healthy, James Harden hamstring holds up.
Now you're cooking, Noah.
They're gonna be all right because my man Maxey is he is turning up.
Them two stay healthy, they're the best team in the league.
Knock it off.
DC.
If them two just stay healthy, they're the best in the league.
Knock it off.
Hold on, the best team or the best 1-2
team? Yeah, team.
No, they have no depth. That second unit.
I don't listen. They're like you said, the kid Maxey. Listen.
Yo, he's their third best player now. He's their third best player,
and his confidence is up there.
Dog, he's their third best player.
I certainly apprate it, but
they still got Tobias,
right?
They got Thibault.
And like I said, as long as Tobias doesn't have to be the top 3 options,
right?
They could be okay.
Tobias making $40 million, and we sit here talking about he don't have to be a top 3 option. It's a goddamn.
Because he's not supposed to be doing that, dog. We know that. He's
not supposed to be making $40 million. Is what he's not supposed to do.
But Philly had to do that. We understood why Philly did that.
Yep, I agree with that.
I understood that.
The same reason Milwaukee had to do that with Chris Middleton.
Thank you, big bro. Exactly.
Isn't that the same offseason they lost Jimmy Butler?
Right.
But Chris Middleton showed out, though. He definitely showed out.
Right.
Middleton saved the day last year.
I mean, yeah, I know a couple of us was calling him out. You know what I mean? And then he came up big.
But I said that, I used to say that years ago with Milwaukee. Like he has to be the guy taking the shots.
Right.
Milwaukee has to be okay with him taking big shots. Giannis is gonna get the MVPs and all of that. Middleton's that nigga, he just had to get somebody in his head to be like, bro, we do got Giannis, but you are the one to be hitting these big shots. And they figured that shit out the year they won that chip.
Yeah,
he was a completely different player that year.
Yeah,
definitely was.
So you just gonna keep calling him Giannis, fam? You just gonna keep
what's his name?
Giannis.
Giannis.
No,
his name is Giannis. Fuck that. I live in Mattapan, bro.
He's Greek. He's Greek DC. The G silence cut.
I'm not calling that nigga Giannis. That just sounds crazy.
Oh man, can't pronounce the G like Gucci. Hey yo. Oh man.
Shit.
I ain't calling that man Giannis. Fuck that.
Nigga said Giannis.
Giannis.
Forever he called him Giannis. That's why I had to call him.
I've never called him Giannis in my life. Right?
He won't neither. He don't care.
I'm not. That man's name is Giannis.
Yo, he's bugging. Bless, man. Did you get a chance to see Harden and Embiid?
Yeah, they look great. They look amazing.
Real quick.
To
Sorry.
co-sign what DC says, he's everything he said in his opening was like sounded accurate to me. You can make comparisons to some of the great duos in the game. I also think what AD said was valid too about Harden feeling rejuvenated. But I'm gonna touch a little bit more on what AD started to go, but didn't fully go there.
Hold on, Les. Before you get busy, AD and Les, I need y'all to just adjust y'all cameras real quick, man. We want to see that merch one time. There we go. Bang, bang. Yes, sir.
There we go.
Yes, sir. Rep the game.
And so, and I'm gonna touch it a little bit more because just like the Nets, he went over there rejuvenated. His hamstring went out on him, and I'm gonna die on this ledge. Harden's an amazing player, but when you need him the most, something's gonna happen. He's gonna get hurt. He's gonna
when else
not
has he
show
hurt,
up.
Right.
Dude, there's always something wrong with that dude. And his hamstring has been on and on. Even in Houston, he
that was Chris Paul got hurt.
Well, Chris Paul got hurt, but he didn't carry Houston when they really needed him.
He did?
No, when they really need him. See, we always disagree on this.
Les, hold on, Les. That game 7 you're talking about, right? Yes. I think that was the game like he kind of started rejuvenating himself, like from stop being a bust in the fourth quarter. Because if you remember in game 7, he almost went for 40. Mm-hmm. He had like 37, 10, and 8.
Harden has always been available. That's the only series he missed was with us last year. Harden is in the playoffs and going crazy 9 times out of 10.
I don't think he's a clutch player. I just don't.
You might want to check the clutch stats, man.
I definitely will, but I don't view him as a clutch player. I don't view him. I can't think of too many times where he was better than the next team's best player and helped that team win when you really needed to win. I can't think of too many times, and I'm not. And I used to be a big Harden defender.
Can I rebut that?
Yes, please.
Name to me a team that those James Harden led teams lost to that wasn't better than them.
Well, didn't they lose? Weren't they up like was it against the Clippers? They were up against. I'm pretty sure they were like they almost had the Clippers beat. And I could be wrong.
I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you who they almost had beat. I said name me which team they lost to that wasn't better than them.
But okay, the Clippers were better than them, but they had. I can't name a team. But does that matter? But that doesn't matter. That's what greatness is about. Sometimes you beat that team that you're not betting on. Sometimes that alpha dude steps up and they beat that team. They help beat that team.
Almost never, Les. Almost never.
No, I don't believe that's true. Michael
Jordan. I mean, if we talking winning, we start with Jordan. Jordan never beat a team that was greater than his team.
No, the only team that was clearly better than his team that he I mean, you could make an argument that Detroit was still better than him when they beat Detroit when they got older. You could make an argument that Detroit was a better team than the Bulls.
Mahorn was gone. Zeke was injured. They had been to the Eastern Conference Championship 5 straight years.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, they weren't better at that point. Wasn't Denton? Mahorn was gone. They're coming off of 5 straight Eastern Conference championships.
Mahorn was gone, but they had replaced him with somebody else, if I'm not mistaken. They had another wing in there that wasn't there previously. Was it Mark Aguirre? I think wasn't Mark Aguirre coming off the bench for them dudes?
No, I think Aguirre was gone. They lost Aguirre and they lost Mahorn that last year that they lost to the Bulls.
I'm gonna have to look at that.
Zeke was injured and they had been to the Eastern Conference Championship 5 straight years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of basketball. Playing into June for 5 straight years, that's unprecedented. Mm-hmm. Only other person we've seen do something like that is LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
5 straight Eastern Conference championships. That's
I'm telling you, I wish I could like press a button and pop Fred Hennessy in here for a second, because Fred Hennessy can tell you all about James Harden, dog.
I mean, so can I, and I'm going to ask him the same question that I just asked you, and he won't be able to answer it either. Because the answer is James Harden has never lost to a team that he should have beat. That Houston team always lost to teams that were just better than them. That's just the facts.
I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
Even your greatness has a ceiling. Like you could go out there and score 40, like AG just told you, and it's just not going to be enough if your team is.
I think that Houston team with CP3 was that they lost to a Golden State. That Houston team was just as good as Golden State.
Nah, DC, we're talking about one of the greatest teams ever.
Nah.
Weren't they up on Golden State as well?
They
DC?
was up on Golden State.
CP3 getting hurt was they could have beat them, bro.
They had no chance of beating them, DC, and you know
What?
that.
Stop that. Stop. See, Noah, don't go that
when you
far.
say things like that, you're like,
because they
You know,
We
like-
watched that series, right? We
I
watched that
say
series,
you can use your opinion, but you're saying like they had no chance. They was up like 3-2 or some shit.
They was. They had to win the last. They won the last two games.
How was there no chance of beating them? They're up 3-2. Like that doesn't.
Me
You
and
gotta
you-
say to yourself that comment didn't make sense, bro. Come on.
No, it makes perfect sense, see, because we
It
watched that
doesn't make
series,
perfect sense. You in your mind, it makes perfect sense.
D, I was
Noah.
with you. Me,
It
you,
was
and O.
3-2, bro.
Me,
How
you,
do
and O.
you not have a chance to win when you're up 3-2? Noah.
DC, how many 20
Noah.
What year was that? And
Noah, how do you
Listen.
not have a chance up 3-2?
Listen,
What
How
year
are
was
you
that Golden
disputing
State,
this?
Houston?
you're asking me a question.
Hold on,
You have to let
hold
me
on.
answer it.
All right.
We watched two of those games together, DC. We was
Right.
at Dave & Buster's in Braintree. Me, you, and my
Correct.
brother O. How many times was Houston up 20 points in that series?
Doesn't matter. They was up 3 games.
How many times was Houston up 20?
What does that matter? I don't remember, honestly. I don't remember.
It doesn't matter. They were up, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but they were, I know for a fact they were up 20 at least twice. And then within a fucking commercial break, Golden State goes to that next gear that Houston just doesn't have, and the 20-point lead was gone.
So how did Houston get up 3-2?
Because they played to their competition. That happens all the time, DC.
No.
KD told you himself they got bored. That Houston team had no chance. From top to bottom, that Houston team had no chance to beat Golden State, and you know that.
CP3 and James Harden got a chance to beat anybody.
No, now
they
listen.
won't. Not the on paper. On paper, we're talking about one of the greatest teams ever. We're talking top 3 talent-wise ever. That Houston team won't even be nowhere near that conversation.
Noah.
When you have consecutive MVPs team up with a defensive player of the year, a finals MVP off the bench, the 2 best shooters in the league, all of those pieces, Houston didn't have nothing like that.
So they was just playing with them, right?
Noah, listen.
They played to their competition. They was playing with their food.
Noah, listen.
Play with their food.
Noah, listen.
Erase double-digit deficits whenever they felt like it.
Noah, listen. I'm gonna ask you this, right?
Yes, sir.
When Golden State won Game 7, how much did they win by?
I don't recall.
They won by less than 6 points, bro.
Yeah, and that's consistent with what I'm telling you the whole time, AD.
How's that? Like they had to earn that. They played in what?
Did Golden State play their best series, AD?
Was Golden State the number 1 seed? No, they wasn't.
No, not that
Right.
year.
So that means Houston. So that means Houston was a better team that year, right?
Houston has 65 wins, but you would have bet.
No, don't go.
Like, what are we talking about?
Was Houston a better team? That's what DC keep asking you, bro.
No, they had a better record.
We could go by the players and all that, right? They was the Western Conference champions, right? Regular season, right? Regular season, right?
AD. Was Boston not the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference with LeBron there? Was Toronto not the number 1 seed? You wouldn't have bet a single penny that they stood any chance against Cleveland.
They did have a chance against Cleveland, bro.
AD, they had no fucking chance. They were calling the city LeBronto.
Oh my God. Dog, you see, I'm talking about the Celtics that went Game 7. They went to Game 7, Noah.
And would you have bet on the Boston Celtics, AD? Would you have bet would you have bet a cheeseburger?
Plenty of people bet on the Boston Celtics. Say it. Look at Vegas.
DC, would you have?
That game was a great
it's the
game.
Celtics,
Noah.
no.
Of course not.
But Noah, was that a great game?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a good game.
Why was it a good game, though?
Because it was Game 7. Most 99% of Game 7 was a
Because
great
two teams who were evenly matched made it to Game 7.
They weren't evenly matched. Boston got more talent. They weren't evenly matched. Boston was the favorite.
Oh God, dog.
Boston wasn't the favorite?
I don't remember.
They were the favorite.
Yeah,
They was the favorite without Kyrie Irving.
Dude, I'm telling you,
You
they're in
remember,
that
what,
shit.
you remember what Cleveland had left there? Nothing. It was Kevin Love giving you 11 points a game and nothing else.
Oh my goodness.
I just looked this up because I remember some dull moments in that series by Harden. And knowing you and I always disagree on this, so I don't expect you to see my point on this, but I'll give it a shot.
I can always see your point, Les. Agreeing with it might be another story.
You know what? That's fair. I'll give you that. So they Golden State beat the Rockets 104-99 in the second to last game of the series. James Harden had 2 points in the fourth quarter. No, 4 points, excuse me, in the entire fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Balling all game. They could have won that game. He had 4 points in the fourth quarter.
You want me to show you how many times he's had 20 in the fourth quarter, Les? If you pick out an arbitrary number, like one game, and tell me that James Harden isn't this based on one game. I mean,
but there's other games where
every one game, for every one bad fourth quarter you can find, I can give you 15 where he was amazing. For
where
every
those 15 games where he was amazing in the playoffs in closeout game-winning situations, situations.
Look at every other fourth quarter in that series, and you tell me.
Oh, I can.
It
only took me like 2 seconds to find this one, but I can. Let's see.
And you're not going to find another 4-point campaign in the fourth quarter.
But those other campaigns wouldn't be in game closeout situations. Or were they up? Were they up 3-1 or 2-1? What was it? I mean 3-2.
3-2 was the best they were.
All right.
And James Harden is what, a 13-year veteran at this point? For every one bad fourth quarter you can find from him, there's easily 15 great ones.
Dude,
at that contrast, how do you use the minority instead of
maybe it's just a feeling I have, but I just don't trust that dude. I think he's gonna let Philly down, kind of like how we let the Nets down. And I know injury is not fair, but it happens. Kind of like Chris Paul. Chris Paul always gets hurt.
Chris Paul
he's hurt right now.
Chris Paul gets hurt. That might be fair, but at the same time, as an athlete, you always got to look at the injury.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at the injury. Some injuries are the athlete's fault. Other injuries, there's nothing you can do about them. That's just the reality of it. Training can help you prevent a lot of injuries. Other injuries are accidents,
hamstrings and whatnot. I don't know. I don't just trust Harden. I think Houston could have won that series. I think I know Harden was hurt with the Nets, but I think he still could have done a little bit more than he did on that. Like he did, and maybe I'm asking for too much.
You go play 48 minutes in an NBA basketball game right now against the best basketball players in the world with them.
I mean, I'm clearly not even in shape to probably play in a high school basketball game for 48 minutes.
I'll share this with you, Les. I was talking to Jamal Coombs in the group yesterday. If you don't know who Jamal Coombs is, he's a D1 athlete.
Yep.
He was hospitalized behind a hamstring. This is a D1 athlete. He had. I mean, we've seen LeBron be carried away from hamstring situations. Those were cramps, but it's easy for us to say what you should be able to do on a certain injury if you don't fucking have it. I've got a hamstring before, and basic functions are very taxing when you have a fucked up hamstring. So playing professional basketball against the best players in the world isn't something that you should just be able to do with a fucked up hamstring.
So
fair to say, AD?
If we had to take a guess of why he hurt his hamstring, how do you think he hurt his hamstring? Was he in the best of shape, you think?
No.
Okay.
Those are soft tissue injuries are injuries that the athlete can do a better job mitigating.
Okay.
Soft tissue injuries are absolutely matters of training and diets. Now, granted, if you tear one of those muscles, that's a difference. But straining one of them is not preventable, but you can mitigate that based on your training regimen, based on your diet. That's why certain guys just don't have them.
So I'm digging deep here to keep my argument going. I'm digging deep. So in Philadelphia, I've been to Philadelphia. Lovely place to hang out for a weekend. Great subs, great
Downtown
food.
is like the trenches.
But there's still great food. There's some nice rooftops. There's a lot of eating that can happen. And James Harden, I don't know. He hasn't been in the best shape lately.
Have you seen him these last 2 games? He looked like he dropped 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
He looks amazing. He does. He looks amazing. And he looked amazing when he first came to the Nets, too.
No, he was fat as shit when he first got there.
No, but he was playing good, though. Like AD said, he looked rejuvenated when he went there.
It's not hard to play when you got Kyrie Irving and KD and you got Joe Harris and you got all these pieces. It's not hard to play. It's very easy to play good.
Right, mark my words. Harden's going to be the reason them dudes don't go far. If not Harden, Embiid will get hurt. One of them two dudes is going to get hurt.
I hope to say that sound real. Damn, that sound like some haters.
Well, I mean, I am a Celtics fan, and it's in my DNA to hate.
Oh
Philly
yeah,
and
you don't
Nets.
even gotta worry about it unless y'all don't have a chance against them.
Give that shit up, man.
Y'all don't have a chance against the.
But I'm telling. But am I right? Are those two like? If I went to Vegas right now, I bet you there's probably a bet on when them dudes get hurt. I'm just telling you.
Absolutely, because
of course there is.
Right. I mean, but at the same time, you can bet which celebrity is going to marry a pig. Like the shit isn't really definitive based on what you can bet in Vegas. Like, I mean,
fine. That's just where I feel. I'll leave it at that.
No, but all in all, man, I think we're all respecting. And again, y'all know me, man, Brooklyn Nets fan since inception. But clearly, I think we won that trade. Absolutely, get your merch. You already know. But I think,
I have to cut you off, Noah. I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna get up out of here.
We appreciate you, Commissioner.
Good 45 minutes with the gang.
You already know, man. We always appreciate you, Commissioner.
You already know, man. Les, AD, Noah, my brothers. I see y'all.
Commish, Captain. Where's Adam?
He'll be tapping in a second. But moving forward, man. Speaking of players playing well, we got a treat, man. We got a treat on Saturday night, and this made my weekend. Kyrie Irving put on a masterclass in Milwaukee Saturday night. Masterclass. That was Professor Irving running a clinic. 38 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 54% from the field.
How many threes he hit?
Not many.
It was all mid ranges.
Yeah, and at the he struggled from three. Man.
Yeah, it was all mid ranges.
It was. I mean, that's clearly a game we're supposed to lose. Without Simmons, without Durant, without Harris, we're not supposed to go into Milwaukee shorthanded and pull off a dub like that. Drummond paid dividends. I said myself, I got to be in Philly in March for a client. I'm gonna try to buy Daryl Morey lunch if he allows me to. That trade did so much for us. Obviously, Philly got the best player in the trade, being James Harden. But in terms of the pieces that we needed to fill the holes that we had, I mean, Drummond is the leading rebounder in the league since he was drafted. No one averages more rebounds than Andre Drummond. He's cleaning the glass for us in a fashion that we just didn't have before. We've tried a few different bigs. Obviously, we had DeAndre Jordan. Obviously, we're trying to get Nick Claxton involved, LaMarcus Aldridge, but he's never really rubbing the glass like that. But to have a guy like Drummond come in and give us so many second chance opportunities, had a massive block on Giannis. And Drummond's weak side defense has always been in question. He's not the best defender at the rim, but he seems like he's rejuvenated, having starting minutes and being able to kind of return to his status that he kind of expects for himself. But moreover, man, I want to talk about Kyrie Irving. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it because obviously there's a lot of pieces around Kyrie Irving in terms of the mandate being removed. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, came out and made a statement today. Mandates are being removed starting March 7th. This first wave of mandates will not clear Kyrie Irving to return to play the home games. But we are expecting in the next few weeks, definitely before playoff time, given all things going well. Hopefully the COVID numbers stay, on a decline. They're saying that Kyrie Irving will most certainly be able to play home games come playoff time if nothing changes in terms of the pandemic. Fellas, man, just as basketball fans, we got a treat on Saturday. Les, did you get a chance to watch the game?
I did.
What man, that level of Kyrie is just special, man. And I think, while I watched it, I heard, KD's interview when they asked him about, Kyrie Irving and him sitting out, and KD's response was, "Have you ever seen him play? He's a master." That's what KD said. And literally, just not even just scoring the buckets, but the fashion in which he does it, in a very cool, collective fashion. And it just looks unstoppable. Like, he goes out there, does whatever he wants. He does things that I just don't see other players doing. Like, he makes small spaces seem huge. He'll be in a phone booth and you'll think he's on a football field. He makes the most out of all these little situations. No matter where the trap comes from, he's always one step ahead. He'll spin out. Just what did you see, AD, as a really, really good ball player yourself, man? Obviously, I'm going to assume that you've been in zones like that where the rim just looks big and where you can really just put your fingerprints on the game. What does that feel like when you're in one of those moments?
Like for me, right? It's not for me when I watch Kyrie, right? It's not about his shots, them going in, right? It's the moves that he does to get those shots.
Yeah.
And create. Like one time, he put it behind his back, he split a pick and roll. Then he seen the guy who was chasing him off the pick and roll. Then he did a step back in the middle of the lane. And his body was so 90 degrees, was so straight to the rim.
Shoulder squared.
Yeah, it was so impressive that he didn't have most people are gonna fade.
Right.
You know, because that's what your body does when you do a step back. He did not fade.
Right.
He went straight up.
Into his jumper.
Right. And when I watch Kyrie as a person who has played basketball, that you cannot teach. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the kids come up to me like, you know, like, AD, you think you could teach me what that stuff Kyrie does? Like,
Kyrie can't teach you the things that Kyrie does.
I'm like, my dude, you can inbox Kyrie on his Instagram and you can get every film he has and you're never going to be able to do the stuff he does.
Right.
Like his body positioning is so unique. His dribbles is so unique. Like how he dribbles the ball sometimes is different. Like he split a pick without switching hands,
which is crazy.
Like I don't think people understand that. You know what I mean?
Definitely understand what you're talking about.
That's impressive. And then he pulled up off it.
I was waiting for you to say that part.
Then he pulled up off
one hand.
Yeah. Then going towards the baseline with True Holiday on him.
Right.
One of the best on-ball defenders.
Right.
Then what I like about Kyrie, and a lot of people don't give him credit for it because he's a small guard, but he posts up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how is a man that small able to post up?
Right.
But it's his ability to free up his shot, and then his actual shot. Like the man shoots 50% from the field, like, and he's 6'2", 6'3", and he's shooting jumpers, and he has incredibly unique, candy ways of finishing around that rim. Like
man of 1,000 layups.
Yeah, I never seen anything like it.
Les always says, man of 1,000 layups either hand. Make it 2,000.
Now, what I will say about Kyrie's performance, besides that, them guys played tonight, they lost by like 30, but nobody played.
36.
Right. I think that gives them some type of confidence. When you beat the defending champs with just Kyrie, without Ben Simmons and without Kevin Durant, it gives you a boost of confidence for the long term.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
and we needed that too, AD. We've been on a straight games. And
you could tell Kyrie, like you could see it, like he was in the zone. He was pressing. Right. You could tell he was pressing.
Right.
And what big players do, they come up big, and no, did he?
Les, I want to hear from you, man, a little bit about, but what I will say, I think AD touched on it. It's not just what he does; it's always the fashion in which he does it. And if y'all watch the game, I always mention that Kyrie and I are 1 degree of separation. We share a mutual friend. My man was there in the front row, and even if you watch some of the highlights, you can see those defenders, whether it be Drew Holiday. I think this one particular highlight, Portis went out on a switch and closed out. Mind you, Bobby Portis is 7 feet tall, closed out on a fade. It was like he wasn't there. Mind you, Kyrie is 6'2", shooting over a 7-footer from the baseline. I think Kyrie tripped, and Portis screams out, "What the fuck?" In almost amazement. Like, I closed out at 7 feet, probably a 7'8" wingspan, closed out on a 6'2" guard who faded from the baseline, all water, pure net. in pure frustration, as Kyrie's getting back up to his feet, I believe it was Portis. He goes, "What the fuck?" Like,
no, he did. I know exactly what you're talking about.
What else can I do? When I say it's not just what he does, it's the fashion in which he does it. When you got guys like Drew Holiday who don't take plays off on defense, who make it difficult for anyone, and Kyrie's out there doing whatever he wants despite it, that shit is demoralizing. What that shit will do to the morale of a team, knowing that they're neutralized. They got one guy. And we're throwing everything at this motherfucker, and it doesn't matter. He's out here fucking killing us. We're switching. We're going over screens, under screens. We're hedging. We're doing everything we can, and he's got fucking 38 at 54%. That shit'll fuck you up mentally. Like, and AD can attest to that. Like, obviously, I'm a football player. AD can tell you, like, when you just out there giving another guy who's killing you everything you got, and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it's demoralizing.
Like, exactly. You know, you're going back to that huddle. Your coach is telling you X, Y's, and Z's, but all you know is there's a dragon out there just blowing fire on everything, and zero regard for human life, shitting on all of y'all in front of y'all fans, in front of y'all teammates. That shit'll get you sooner or later. And I think that kind of set in. I think that set in at the end, man. It just special players do special things, man. I think for the sake of basketball, I think we all want to see Kyrie Irving be able to play as much as we can. Just the aesthetic. It's a brand of basketball you just can't get anywhere else. We've seen great ball players, man, but I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of the look, in terms of the effectiveness. Like 6'2" guard, 50% from the field, like it's kind of crazy, especially in this league. Like real crazy, man. Moreover, man, I want to get into. I'm gonna give Adam a second to join us before we get into our main topic. But man, there was an unprecedented event that took place in college basketball this weekend.
I had a hot take for Kyrie.
Oh, excuse me, Les. My fault. Let's rewind it real quick. Les, the floor is yours.
It's gonna sound a little crazy, but hear me out. You know I'm famous. I'm good with the hot takes. I'm not saying he's
crazy too.
That's true. I'm not saying he's as good as these two people's names I'm about to mention, but when I break it down to you, you might understand. And I'm not a basketball analyst, but I'm gonna do the best I can. Kyrie has similarities to MJ and Kobe offensively. And what I mean by that is that if you watch both of those three guys play, in my opinion, they play bigger than they actually are. The shot you're talking about, it's like he wasn't there. Him getting to the hoop, left, right, finishing at the rim, it's like they're not there. He's small, he can post up, and then he can shoot. Not like these effort. He can shoot either off the left or the right hip, just like those guys. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying he's them, right?
Not less. You're not far off at all.
I get what you're saying, because he's like you got to remember Kobe was his mentor,
right? And who was Kobe's mentor? So Kobe studied Mike, Kyrie studied Kobe. It's the same lineage. It's the same bones there. You dig what I'm saying? So that's not far off at all in terms of just skill set. But then you got to think of Kyrie being even smaller than them, and to be the 8th player ever to be 50-90.
He can get to anywhere on the court that he wants.
Yeah, I mean, and even to that conversation, they didn't have the handle Kyrie had. And not for nothing, y'all might kill me for this one. They weren't better shooters than he was either.
Yo, listen, Kobe said that though. Kobe said that he when he started mentoring Kyrie and he started working him out, he said that he was like, "Yo, Kyrie Irving is one of the most gifted basketball players he has ever seen." That's Kobe Bryant telling you that.
That's a fact. Mm-hmm. And this is Kobe as one of the most talented basketballers we've ever seen. Giving some most praise for being talented.
Right.
And Kyrie thought that he could give Kobe the business one-on-one too.
Right. Right. Like Kyrie said, and you heard what Kobe said, easy money. Like easy.
I would have loved to see that game if they ever happened.
So this what it would have been, right? Kobe will punish him, right? Like just post him, right? But if Kobe ever fucking misses that ball, that shot, he might not ever get that shit again.
He might not get that ball back. I'm telling you, he shoot over Bobby Portis, and much respect to Kobe Bryant's on ball. You know what it takes to guard somebody like Kyrie?
Thank you.
You know what kind of effort, like Kobe
Hacking, hand checking.
So whatever you want to do, Kyrie Irving's built for all that. Like, especially if it's a one-on-one game. One-on-one games are completely different.
Oh yeah, you have no. Yeah, you have no shot.
There is no help. There is no help. There's no weak side. There's no nothing. There's no rotation. It is you. And trying to guard Kyrie, they were showing like, I don't know if you've ever watched any. I know AD certainly has. If you watch some of Kyrie Irving's like workout tapes, his workout, there's no basketball. There's no ball.
It's a tennis ball. He does a lot of work with his tennis ball.
Right. And then even outside of tennis ball, like he will go through all his motions and all his moves with just feet, like really just mastering feet. And then that's what I was saying. He makes small spaces seem huge because he'll get about 15 steps in the same amount of space that we might get like 4 or 5. And the feet are just constantly going. And it's, man, listen.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That kid is an animal. That kid is an animal, man. But absolutely nothing wrong with that take, Les. I don't think anyone, whether basketball purist, whether newcomer, it's hard to deny that, especially when you know the history in terms of Kobe studying Mike and then obviously Kyrie studying Kobe. I mean, those lessons are passed down. Man, I don't know what the fuck happened. I'm a college basketball fan. I ain't never seen no shit like this in my life. The top 6 teams in the country all lost this weekend. And number 9 seed in the number 9 team too, AD, right?
Yep.
7 AP consensus top 10 teams lost in one weekend. AD, what does that mean? Why are we seeing this? Like, I hear a lot of guys, man, real purists kind of shit on the AAU programs in terms of making bad players and, you know, obviously AD, you played at every level, you know what I mean, in those circuits. What does this mean? How does shit like this happen? Because this isn't an isolated incident. I think that speaks to like the quality of college basketball currently.
Well, to me, I've been saying this, you know, for the last like 7 to 10 years. It's been a lot more parity in college basketball, which brings more excitement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even like the big dogs, like the Kentuckys, the Dukes, and all that, you know, they can lose to a Wichita State now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is dope if you think about it as a fan.
Right.
I mean, now, which was crazy about all these teams losing, right? They was all on the road.
Oh, that shit.
That's what was crazy to me. I'm like, damn, the scheduling of this was like kind of like mind-boggling to me. I'm like, damn.
AD, we'll never see this again in our lifetimes.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, the only road team, it was only 2 road teams in the top 10 that won. Duke and Arizona, I think. No, Arizona lost. It was Duke.
Arizona lost.
Yeah, it was Duke and someone ranked like right behind Duke, and now they're number 4 in the nation. Duke's number 3 in the nation. They're the only 2 teams who won on the road in the top 10 last week. That's
crazy.
I never seen nothing like that. I played Division I college basketball in dog, like that was a sad day for all of Las Vegas. You understand me?
I thought he was gonna say the players are Vegas is in shambles. God,
so let me ask you a quick question, AD, about the teams that won. All right, were any of those teams a good team?
Yes. So like all the teams that you see in the SEC, those are all big games. You know what I mean? And like those are in the Big Ten. You know what I mean? Those are conference games. You know what I mean? So that's why it wasn't really hard for me to be in disbelief. What was in disbelief was how all of them was on the road though. Like, damn, not half of them was at home. Y'all all on the road. How's the whole top 10 on the road? That's crazy. I watched that Gonzaga game. They got thugged. The other night by St. Mary's.
Yeah, St. Mary's, yeah.
I was shocked. They got the All-American and foul trouble. What's his name? Timmy. The other big. Yeah. That played a big. He got the best footwork in the nation.
They were drawing comparisons to Mikal.
Watch, see, man, see. That's that bullshit.
What?
I-
I said,
Hey,
No. I understand he's white and shit, and he got great footwork, but come on, cuz Kevin McHale like a god when it comes to footwork. Like, yo,
That's a fact, AD. But who else could they compare him to?
Kevin Love, man.
No, I'm mad that AD had an answer right away. That's what I'm mad at.
Like,
y'all must
dog,
have planned that, yo. That was too good.
like, dog.
Fuck
Like,
you, AD, for being on top of that.
like, dog, that's crazy, man. Like, don't get me wrong, man. He's he's unbelievable. But damn, like Kevin McHale.
That's what they were saying.
So, yo, right? See that's that bullshit. So now everybody's gonna expect this man to come in the NBA and give y'all like 16 to 20. Hell no.
Nah, it ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. He might not even make the league.
They're not giving the dudes the ball in the post like that, anyways.
Nah, but he go inside out though.
I'm gonna say
Oh, does he?
he
Okay.
can get there himself. He can start on that. He
Yeah.
can start up high. He's gonna work.
He could put the
Oh, wow,
ball in the
okay.
deck. You want me to tell you who he's like? He's like
He can finish both hands.
he's a better Kelly Olynyk.
Okay. All right. I can see what a Betty Kelly would look like.
Kelly Olynyk just hit a game winner
I'm
yesterday.
gonna say just hit it for Detroit. And what is Kelly now? A 10-year vet? He's still,
Yeah.
he's still in the
Yeah,
league.
he's still in the game. Yeah.
Still in the league, hitting game winners.
Yup. So hey, it may be in Detroit, but shit, he may not be able to drink no clean water, but he'll be all right.
Nah, AD. He white. He got clean water.
yo, dog. Detroit got to stop that shit that's going on down there, man. They haven't drunk water in 10 years, bro. Like, when they gonna drink some clean water, bro?
Shit's nuts, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Shit's really, really nuts, man. Les, did you get a chance to watch any of these college episodes?
No, I don't watch college basketball, but I am gonna start as soon as March Madness starts. I'm gonna get back on the horse again. I stopped watching it a few years ago once there was all these one and dones and kids going straight to the league. But I did do some research, and I noticed that all those games were road losses pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just I was going to sum it up to road losses, home crowd, and maybe stuff that's going on in the society right now, because the world's a little crazy right now. Younger folks might not be able to really deal with things the way us adults deal with it. What's going on in the world right now. So maybe that had something to do with it, or maybe they're all in the take. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Like I said, shit, we're all grown ass men, so we'll probably never see any shit like this again for the rest of our lives. Top 6 teams go down, all on the road. Like, that shit is unprecedented. I've been watching, ESPN.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, bro, you never will. You never will.
Yeah, like I just couldn't believe this. I just couldn't believe the scheduling. Like I keep saying, like all on the road. Like not one of them was like at home. Like none of them.
That's
like,
crazy.
Like, honestly, we might not ever see the top 6 seeds all go down in 2 weeks. Never mind one fucking day, one weekend. Like, that shit is nuts, man. Yeah, real crazy.
So who's number one now after that weekend?
That's a good question. I know my Dookies moved up from number 9 to number 3.
It's still got to be Gonzaga, right? Everyone else lost. Everyone else behind them lost.
They lost to St. Mary's. Is St. Mary's a really good team this year?
No.
St. Mary's is solid, but at the
they had no business beating Gonzaga.
They had no business.
That might.
There was a double figure. Like they was.
It was a massive spread, Les.
Yeah, it was like 12 or 13 points.
Yeah.
That might hurt them.
But I mean, everyone, the top 6 lost less. So who do you bring up? Like, it's not like
that's why I said they only rewarded 2 teams. The 2 teams, Duke and whoever else won are now they now moved up from 9 and 10 to 3 and 4.
Yeah, this sounded like it's a very interesting college season.
It is. Like I told you, there's so much parity now. Like
Purdue is crazy.
Purdue. I think Purdue got the best wing player in the land. Like, it's not even close. Ivy is the best player.
Let me get on this
Yeah,
NCAA
let's definitely tap
schedule.
in, man. Try to do a little research before the tourney starts. But yeah, we should have a good tourney, man. There's a lot of like AD said. AD called it best, man. There is no okay. We'll see. You know, it won't be the blue teams. It won't be Kansas. Won't be Kentucky. Won't be Duke. Just plowing their way into this.
So
Elite
I'm gonna put it to you like this, right, Les? You know how all the time 12 always beats number 5.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You could book
Pretty
about
much.
you could book 2 of those this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could book like a 13 versus 4. A 13 is gonna win.
Mhm.
Then you're gonna
Wow.
and then like a 14 seed, they're gonna win.
Right.
Remember, I'm telling you this. Remember.
So Les, the whole idea of like the Cinderella,
Mm-hmm.
we just saw 7 Cinderellas in one weekend.
Right.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Like-
that's definitely nuts.
Really, really like gross underdogs. 7 of them winning against top 10 teams in the country in one weekend. Like that's what kind of energy this season's on.
Oh, I remember Virginia was the number 1 seed in the whole thing and lost opening round to a 16 seed.
To a 16. Who they lose to, AD? I remember that.
Norfolk State.
That's a fact.
Norfolk State.
So, yo, Les, definitely gonna be a good tournament, man. I'm not even doing a bracket this year. I'm not wasting my fucking time.
Now I'm gonna do my family one. All the Davis, man, we do one, man, every year.
Nice.
But and I'll probably do one for free on CBS Sports.
Mm-hmm.
I almost 2 years ago, I almost won CBS Sports.
Word?
I almost won it. I almost won CBS Sports.
That's tough, man. Yeah, but let's definitely get involved, man. Definitely tap in. We definitely be talking more basketball as the tournament gets here. Fellas, we're gonna close the night with our main topic. And I like the crew we have, man. Obviously, I would have loved for Adam to be able to join us and maybe even a couple other dudes, but I think we're gonna get really good perspectives on this. I really wanted to touch on the rule changes that the NBA has endured over the modern era, and obviously modern era being 79 to current. We talk about, as basketball fans for a long time now. I think I'm the youngest of all of us. We talk about how rule changes have impacted certain players, certain eras, certain decades. I really wanted to kind of just spin the mic and not even have a debate about it. Just talk about what the rule changes have meant in terms of how our own personal perspectives. Les, obviously, I believe you are the senior leader here. I'm gonna start with you, Les, because I know you've seen it firsthand. You've seen some of the rules that were changed for guys like Kareem. Obviously, you've seen some of the rules that were adjusted for Mike. And we're talking everything from like the freedom of motion rules that have kind of changed and allow players to kind of avoid hand checking. Obviously, we're talking about illegal defense. We're talking about all those things and kind of an encompassing synopsis. Like, give me your take on what those rule changes have meant for players that, modern era players, obviously 80s, 90s, and then obviously the rules being changed in 2001, the first time. And then I think they were changed again in 03 in terms of the freedom of motion and the no more hand checking and illegal defense was removed in February of 2001. So just kind of touch on all of that, man, and what it's meant to you and what you've seen from players given the rule changes.
The NBA is always going to do what they feel they need to do to get more people watching. And at time,
they're a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Exactly, and the purists, like, I don't know if I consider myself a purist, but purists are always going to be aggy and get off my lawn about that. But we as fans have to really learn to adjust to that. And some of us do and some of us don't. Mm-hmm. I personally think, and maybe I'm biased to this if I'm being objective, I'm biased towards the 80s. I'm biased towards the golden era of basketball. But I'm going to give this era of basketball a shout out right now. I think with the referees being told to hold the whistle a little bit longer now, and it's not an actual rule change like the things that you mentioned, but I think the adjustments that they're using to calling the game this year, this is the closest to 80s basketball that I can remember in a while. Yeah, it's not much of a post-up game. There's a couple of guys that can post up. There's some guards that can post up and everything. But the game is starting to get physical again. It's starting to get a little bit more physicality. And I think what the NBA needs to do is they can't have radical changes like they took hand checking away, and that totally opened up the game, right? It became strictly offense. I get that the 90s you could get real physical, you can pound on people and everything, and then people didn't want to see that. It made the game harder to score and harder to do things. It clogged the lane. But I believe the NBA is getting closer to some sort of medium where the physicality is being introduced back into the game. And I think if they can bring physicality back into the game, you might even start to see a few traditional big men start to kind of come back into the NBA. I think that the rule changes kind of dictate to help the best players actually too, in a sense. They tend to design it to stop someone from the dominating. Like for a while they wouldn't let you dunk, and then the 3 second the paint the 3 seconds, and I think Charles Barkley, because of Charles Barkley, they're like, dude, you gotta pass the ball. You can't be backing someone down for 5 seconds. So, but I think now, to give a shout out to this era, the most recent era, like in the last, what they're trying to do with the refereeing is, I think it's the closest to 80s basketball I've seen, minus the post up in the mid-range game. But even that's coming back. As you all just said, Kyrie just gave you a display of mid-range and how you can get 38 points with just only hitting 2 3-pointers all night. That the mid-range game is still there if you know how to use it. So I like where the game is starting to go now and again, it's not a rule, but they're acknowledging, hey, cut the bullshit. Don't blow the bullshit. Let these dudes play a little bit. Let them bang a little bit. And that's what I'm seeing, really. I don't want to. Maybe I'm going on a tangent, but
no, Les, the floor is yours, brother. This
Yeah.
is all good information.
Yeah, but right now is the closest we've seen to the golden era. Even with the players, if you think about it, now we're starting to kind of see player on player, not beef. Beef is not, it's a strong word, but player on player friction even now. That was totally gone for years. Everyone's buddy, but now you're starting to see it a little bit. Now you're starting to see a little bit more competitive bite. Now you're starting to see like I don't know, something's happening right now with these guys, and I like where it's going. I really do, and I don't say that often about basketball in the last 10 years. I've been calling it soft for a long time, and maybe that's not fair, but right now, today, something's happening, and I like it.
Now, Les, I'm gonna hit you with this. Do you think the NBA kind of sanctioned its referees to be a little more lax with the whistles based on what we saw in the Olympics?
I think so, and I think that's a great point you brought up. I definitely think so, because your players got to be able to adjust to that if we're going to continue to dominate in basketball.
Right.
So I think so.
Because, we saw guys like Luka look right at home. That physicality meant nothing to him. He was very cozy. But then we saw prolific scorers like Damian Lillard struggle. We saw the entire USA team struggle.
We did.
Because those little bumps that they were waiting for whistles and wasn't getting them, they were expecting those free throws, and they weren't taking place. I absolutely think, because the world, that was on display for the world to watch. This wasn't some, closed circuit workout in some hangar somewhere where no one saw. The world was watching some of our most prolific scorers be neutralized by a little bit of physicality. My next question is, Les, do you think the players had anything to do with it in terms of wanting a little more physicality? Because, not for nothing, the top players in the league are seasoned veterans. I'd say the top, you're talking about the LeBrons, talking about the KDs, talking about the Giannis's. I think Giannis is close to 10 years now. These guys are from an era where they likely played very physical basketball where they grew up at, where it wasn't just all, AAU circuits, you know what I'm saying? Like LeBron was 18 in 03, so that means he grew up playing ball in the 90s in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Akron and those Cleveland, it's not sweet over there. He grew up playing on blacktops the same way we used to go, you know what I mean? Do you think the players maybe had, the Players Association, maybe Chris Paul was whispering to Adam Silver, like, yo, like, chill with the whistles. Like, we want to play basketball the way we know how to. Because you got to think, like, we call this era soft, but for the NBA is what I believe is around 80%, 80 something percent black.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of those black dudes come from neighborhoods that we come from.
Yep.
They didn't grow up playing in these private, state of the art facilities. They grew up playing in the parks in their neighborhoods that probably ain't had no nets or probably had a chain on the rim. One of the backboards probably didn't even have a rim. You feel what I'm saying? That's the style of basketball these dudes grew up playing.
John Morant mentioned something like that recently.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, to think that KD is from PG County. I don't know if you guys are familiar with DC, but PG County.
I went to school down there.
Say less, AD. You
I
don't go to PJ County, you know what I'm saying? That's the place where you just leave your doors unlocked. You feel what I'm saying? Like, most of these guys are from spaces where they didn't have the referees at their aid the way they do at the NBA. So it's an adjustment for these dudes. I mean, even in college to an extent. College whistles are more conservative than NBA whistles. So these dudes grew up playing basketball their whole life in a very physical fashion. Went to, obviously, AAU was probably a little more lax if they did AAU. Went into college, still was pretty physical, and then they get to the NBA. Now that's a culture shift for them. They weren't raised soft. They weren't raised where you couldn't touch nobody, or if a bump is a foul. Like, they had to get adjusted to that. Now, obviously, a lot of guys exploit that, and I think the NBA is trying to do a better job with the flopping. And LeBron is one of the biggest culprits. A lot of the guys are big culprits, and for whatever reason they do it, the flopping culture exists. My question is to both of y'all. Do you think there's any chance that maybe the players union spoke up and say, hey, we struggled a little bit, but that's the basketball we know. That's the basketball we like. That's the basketball we want to play. How much influence do you think the players union had to do with these decisions?
I think some players might have felt that way, and I think some players didn't feel that. I think what players really want, at least from my personal experience, what little experience I have, we just want everything to be one way, and we know that's the way it's going to be. No, we don't want change. Oh, and we play with this crew, it's going to be this way and that crew. Yeah. I do think some players are probably feeling like, hey, we're out here with our hands behind our back. Give us some help. I do think there's some of that, but who knows to say if it's the whole union or just part of the union. I wouldn't know. I would guess some.
Right. Now, AD, I saved you for last, man, because you've played through different eras. You know what I'm saying? You grew up playing at the X. You grew up playing Washington Park. You grew up playing in places where it wasn't safe at. You know what I mean? Obviously, being a brother from Wainwright, you understand. I played basketball on that court many a times. I know what it is. How do you feel about this in terms of exactly what we just spoke on? Is there a chance that the Olympics had an influence on some of these, not even changes, but some of these new influences? And is there a chance you believe that the players union spoke up about it?
I think the players union had something to say about it.
Yeah, I think there's no way that they weren't approached with it.
Right. I don't know how much was said and how much was really thought into of what they said, but I'm gonna take the game a little differently than Les did, as a person who played it and like seen rules change. So I'm LeBron and all them. They're my era. You know what I mean, so when I was in high school in 98, 99, the hand check rule got taken away. You know what I mean, so
AD, while you're in high school,
yeah. My sophomore year. So
your freshman year, you can hand check. Sophomore year, you can't. That's crazy.
Exactly.
That's a hell of an adjustment to make.
So now, in our era, right, and this is why I kind of told everybody when I was coming out, like, yo, the person who's going to challenge MJ is going to be from my era, and it's LeBron. And this is why. Our era had to deal with the physicality, and we had to think the game more than any other era.
Talk about that.
When you go from like, for me, I'm a guard. I went from doing, because I used to do what Gary Payton used to do. I cut you off at half court. I grab your waist. When the ref is on the opposite side, I pluck you, and I'm going the other side for a dunk. You know what I mean? Now, my first game against at prep school at Lawrence Academy against Brooks. I did that. My first two possessions, I got 2 fouls. I had to sit for the rest of the half. So now you got to think the game now. You can't grab, you can't touch, you can't arm bar when a man's posting up. You got to chest up with him now. So all this, you have to think the game more now. And that's why the game changed. Okay. So from the 80s and 90s, it was the big man era. Dump it down low, not too much ball movement, one-on-one basketball. Mano y mano, mano y mano, right? Then in the 2000s, like I'm telling y'all, team basketball became in. That's when zones started getting thrown into the NBA and all that. So now you got to think the game now. Now you got to think, how am I going to get Shaquille O'Neal the ball and he's not allowed to camp in the paint no more? As a coach, as players, we got to come up with a plan, a consistent plan that's going to make us successful.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what the NBA is doing now, as a person who played a little bit of pro basketball, all we're doing is playing international ball now. That's why Luka could come over here and dominate. Joker could come over here. It's easy for them because they've been playing this. They've been playing this way ever since they was 13 years old.
Right, professionally. 13,
right,
14.
right. Ball movement. You know what I mean? Ball screens. Guard to guard ball handle. Like that's what the game. That's what the NBA game is. They've been doing that since they're 13 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the 80s and 90s, there wasn't too many pin downs. You see a man come off a single pick. You're not seeing a man coming off a single double pick, choosing which way he want to go. You know what I mean? That's the mind of it going. You know what I mean? Of the game expanding. So now, while the game is so recognized now, because everybody around the world knows how to play the game now. You know what I mean? Everybody around the world knows how to play the game now. It's the same game as that the international guys been playing. So, and what people say about international basketball, what I don't agree with, and any player who has played international ball will tell you, international ball is tougher than the NBA. Especially as an American, you don't get no calls. First of all, no, you're American. They don't want you there. They want one of their countrymen there. What makes you special? Why are you representing our country instead of one of our own countrymen?
Right. And that countryman is probably his homeboy that he played ball with his whole life.
Right.
You took his roster spot. Wow.
Exactly. And why are they paying you so much money? Why? You're American? Why are you making so much more money than us?
Right.
You know what I mean? So as far as I like where the game is going, because the whole world is involved in the basketball game now. You know what I mean? The world has caught up to us. The Americans is not as dominant no more. Do I still think we have the best athletes? Yes. Do we have the best teams? No.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I think that's a good point you brought up, because I'm not sure if we necessarily need to have our best of our best playing to win these games. Because if we put a team together, like an international team, and that play consistent together, I think that would do a lot more than just picking the 12 best players you can find.
Now let me bring this up to you, Les. Right? You have to bring your best because the world has expanded. So all these guys who are the best players in the world, like the Giannis's, they're gonna go play for their countries.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I mean? The USA will always have to. They're always gonna have to stock up because the world has caught up to them. Like look at even though Argentina, like their dynasty is almost on their way out, but they had like 5 or 6 NBA players.
Their starting five was NBA.
Right. Greece had 5 or 6 NBA players.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like even the Senegal team. The Senegal team has 2 or 3 pros on there. You know what I mean? Now there's pros everywhere now.
Right.
Now when Mike and them went over there, it was a spectacle. You know what I mean? The game of basketball wasn't as big over there, and we didn't play that. We didn't play that international game. We played mano a mano,
right?
And that aura that Michael had and Magic had,
that hero,
right, right. The world was scared of them. You know what I mean? They were scared of them. Not saying that they wasn't going to dominate them regardless. They was going to get dominated. But right, but that dominance will never happen again, and that's because the world has caught up to the way that the NBA, which is the pinnacle of basketball, is being played now.
Now, do you think that the world's caught up because they can be professionals at a much earlier age and play internationally, or are they training different or value different skills differently than we are valuing here in the US?
They value different skills. So, for example,
and team ball, like you said, AD.
Right. For me, it was hard for me to always be in motion over there. I mean, rather than in America, the ball's always in my hand. You have to think the game more internationally than you do over here. If that makes sense.
It does, because where I disagree with you a little bit is I thought the 80s did have passing. And now
now you're only talking about 2 teams though. You're talking about the Celtics and Lakers had passing. That's why they were so dominant over everybody. Everybody else didn't have passing, and that's why they sucked.
I mean, there's a couple other teams too.
Think about this, Les. Right? You're a Celtics star. You're a Celtics.
Yes.
Is the '85 team the best passing team you ever seen?
The '86 team is.
See.
The '86 team. No. But that's also one of the greatest teams, in my opinion, ever too.
They are one of the greatest basketball teams ever. But what made them great was because in that era they passed more than everybody. That's what made them so great.
If you look at '80s basketball, there was defense and physicality, but it wasn't bogged down like the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't bogged down. Now, we didn't shoot the 3 like they did in the '90s or even now, way now, especially now. But but instead of being able to hit a 3, you had to be able to hit the mid range or above the elbow back in the '80s.
But now look at the '80s, right? Now look even if you look at a Harvard Classic game, do you see how cluttered the fucking paint used to be?
Spacing was awful.
Yeah, because they would double the big and
because that's what it was, inside out. You know what I mean? And the only way you're shooting a 3 if you're wide open off that double team.
Like there wasn't like play set up for threes. Threes were like
right.
So threes were like residual effects of the defense collapsing.
I want to say Indiana might be the first team I can think of that ran plays for Chuck Person
and Reggie Miller
to get threes right off the bat, and then they would run the 3 for Larry from time to time, like game-winning situations or whatever. But I think now, though, the game to me is starting to look a little bit more like the '80s minus the big men. But if you see the big men we do have, they can play back to the basket now. With Embiid and Joker, and I think with their success, you're going to start seeing more of that too. And I don't think it's ever going to go back to the '80s, but I think you're going to start seeing even the commentators saying you're going to start seeing it written that it did right now today. It's a better blend of basketball than it was in the last 10 years or 10 years before that, in my opinion.
I'm
Because
gonna be. Oh, sorry, Les.
go ahead.
I'm gonna be totally honest with you, man. I got a 6-year-old, and he has a private trainer. He trains 3 times a week. We're at one of the best facilities in the state of Massachusetts.
You see what he's doing? All right, I feel you. Go ahead.
Hey, don't need to say
I know where he's at. So
shout out to the factory, man. Shout out to the factory, sure. But Les, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. You see every level there. You know, I was watching Jared Terrell work out, you know, the other day. So like my kid's on one court, Jared Terrell's on another court. It's an NBA talent. You see my kid is 6. He's probably like one of the youngest kids going through the motions. And obviously you got, you know, the 9-year-olds and 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 18-year-olds coming to train. Man, the biggest kids out there, Les, they have zero interest in learning how to play the post, and they're not being taught it either, like at all.
Oh wow.
They have bought in like the training circuits of basketball for these generations. Like my kid, my nephew was 13. That is completely phased out. They are teaching and training positionless basketball. So it don't matter. It don't matter if you a 13-year-old at 6'6", you have no clue how to play with your back to the basket.
Oh wow. So Embiid,
you're trying to shoot threes around 38%. That's what you're trying to do.
So Embiid hasn't like influenced.
I mean, first and foremost,
not as much as you think, Les.
Embiid is an anomaly, like just physically. Like, yes, he's a big dude, and most people aren't going to be 7 feet, 280 pounds. But moreover, I mean, we can watch Embiid run the break and look like Shaq in Orlando. Like I watched Embiid come down the court last week with a fake curl.
Yeah, he did
I saw that game.
Put it down, curled, shook the defender, and came for the jelly. Like to be that big and even be able to do that is just mind blowing. You're not supposed to be able to do those kinds of things. So Embiid is his own kind of creature, so to say. So even if these young dudes, I mean, there's a bunch of kids in the factory that's, you know, big kids. You know, the kids 12 years old, my height. You know, I'm 6'1".
Right. Exactly.
They have no idea. They're not learning how to, you know, open up from the post left or right shoulder. They don't even know how to. They don't even know what the block is because they're not being trained that at all. That is never going to be on their curriculum in any of their basketball training. They are promoting this whole concept of positionless basketball, which I think is a little scary because I like how Joel, he'll take a three if it's there, but Joel has no problem taking you right down to the block. He can start at the high post, work his way down. He can start at the high post, open up, give you a mid-range from 15 feet and hit it at a decent enough clip. Like all those things are important because what happens when you're, you know, a 6'10" big guy and you're shooting, you know, you're shooting 20% from three for a month. What do? I mean,
you got to find a way to get some buckets.
You dig what I'm saying? And I always love Charles Barkley's take on why it's important to play inside out. The big guy, and Joel does this even still. We just mentioned Joel had 27 free throw attempts. Joel is going to apply pressure to your team, get you in foul trouble, get his team in the bonus, and start getting easy free throws. That's one of the primary jobs of a big man. Charles Barkley speaks about it all the time. We grew up watching it. What that does is it allows not just Joel, but allows that whole team to start getting easy buckets. You're seeing Tyrese Maxey being more, you know, going to the basket, attacking more. You're seeing different dudes on that team knowing that, like, okay, I can get us, you know, a couple free throws. Worst case scenario, because Joel puts so much pressure on this defense, motherfuckers be in the penalty with 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying?
And you can cut and he can hit and he can pass the ball. So when you cut and he can hit you off the cut too.
And it does so much for the team when your big man understands that is a part of his responsibility. Force his team into the bonus. Force his opponents into the penalty. But I want to kind of transition because we're getting a little away from what I was saying. I'm going to read y'all 2 quotes from some of the greatest basketball players we've ever seen. Kobe Bryant's on record saying, "But for scorers like myself, Carmelo, KD, etc., the rules from the 80s can be more beneficial for us because you have to play us straight up. You want to double team. You want to come way over. So for us, I don't care if you hand check us with 3 hands. There is nobody behind you, and there's no one going to stop us. So the zone, I think, cripples it for some scorers, for some of the top scorers." That's Kobe Bryant. This is, and I agree with Kobe's sentiments there. And this was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan in 2001 during the All-Star break, he took his free time, and attended the NBA competition committee. He made some pretty compelling comments there in front of the NBA's competition committee. It says, this is in the Chicago Tribune of 2001. Jordan was making an impassionate plea before the competition committee that he gathered to consider rule changes to enliven the NBA game. Pardon me. Jordan spoke passionately and said, if teams were able to play zone defenses, I would have never had the career that I did. Those two quotes are quotes that I reference in debates about either era and either generation, and I think they're profound. You know what I mean? Obviously, these are two of the most skilled scorers we've ever seen, some of the most prolific basketball players. On both sides of the ball. You know, we're talking about these rules mainly impact defense. So these are guys who play defense at a high level, and they're making these comments that have some contrast. You know what I mean? I've always felt the way Kobe does in terms of hand checking. Like, I know defense to be an actual skill. Like, defense isn't just being able to jam your forearm into somebody and trying to navigate them. And if you look at historically, some of the greatest on-ball defenders we've seen, they all have similar traits. We're talking elite lateral quickness. We're talking, being able to get to certain spots quickly. It's knowing where to be. It's predicting. All of those things, like, they're actual talents. They're actual talents that make you a good defender. And we can see it all the way down from Moncrief all the way up to Kawhi Leonard's, all the way up to Thibault's, all the way up to Tony Allen's. Like, we've seen the criteria for good defenders. And it's not just throw your arm into somebody. That's not defense to me. Because defense actually requires certain skills. And these skills can be honed in on. These skills can be developed. You can improve your lateral quickness. You can improve your hand speed. You can work on beating your man to the spot. That's all training. You dig what I'm saying? For me, those skills are what make a good defender. Not doing this. Anybody essentially can take their forearm and put it into your waist and try to move you from the spot that you're trying to get to. I think that's a slight to what a good defender is. Guys like Tony Allen, guys who took pride on the defensive end, who made it their business, guys like Gary Payton, guys like Scottie Pippen, guys that we know to take pride in playing defense, even Rodman. I think it's a slight to say that because they can't do this, they can't play defense anymore.
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
hand checking, getting rid of hand checking. Let me just say, I see what you're saying, but I never looked at it as a slight, because what a guy like, for example, Terry Cummins would do is like he would literally hand check you into help and use his physicality on, like, because he's a small forward. He was really a power forward.
He's a power forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he couldn't be out there trying to cover small forwards like that. So he would use his physicality to help guide players into help and things like that. He was a really strong man back then. So I see what you're saying. Yeah, you gotta be able to move your feet and everything like that. But, I also think I didn't, for the record, I don't want hand checking back in the NBA. I'm not a fan of hand checking. I thought it kind of messed up the 90s a lot, to be honest with you. So I'm not a fan of it. But I'm just saying, allowing the offense to have free reign on defense, to me, isn't that fair. It's not an even playing field. To use football for a second, when they start taking certain rules out the game for football, it made the game easier for the quarterback. And I understand you have to keep the quarterback safe. But in the NBA, I'm not necessarily sure removing some of the rules and adding zones and whatnot was key. I think they just did that because they needed to open up the game, and the game did need to be opened up. But I think there's a middle. There's a middle where everyone can be happy, and I think right now, today is the middle, or we're getting to that middle.
That's fair. I want to continue to expound on what I was saying in terms of, I've seen games like. Watch these games. I've seen Jordan tell Cartwright to clear it out. Cartwright has to move. And if Cartwright moves, guess who has to move with him? Mm-hmm. The big. Mm-hmm. So now there's somebody who has no business guarding Michael Jordan one-on-one in the middle of up Schitt's Creek without a fucking paddle. So there is no big. Cartwright has now drawn the big to the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
It's Mike against some dude, and it's Mike in the rim. I mean, I'm not talking about a move. There was no crossover. There was no jab step. It was right body to the rim.
Well, let me counter to your point.
If it wasn't that, and I've seen this too,
mm-hmm.
they manufacture the illegal defense call. So he'll send Cartwright out, and it's your natural instinct as a big to provide the rotation, to give help, especially from the weak side. If Cartwright has now brought you out and you're the defender, you're the big defender, he's brought you out 16 feet away from the basket, and you're watching Michael Jordan moonwalk by his perimeter defender, and it's Mike in the rim. So now you're trying to play in space, illegal defense, technical free throw.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Mike do it, like manufacture it himself, not in the
mm-hmm.
flow of the game, intentionally send Cartwright out to create that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think is good basketball. And this is why Michael Jordan himself told us in 2001, if teams were allowed to play zone defense, I would have never had the career that I did. That's not paraphrasing. That's not an interpretation. That is a direct quote from who many people call the greatest basketball player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can ignore how profound something like that is, where he's telling himself, this is no paraphrasing, no nothing. This is a word for word, verbatim quote from arguably the GOAT.
Let me reply to it, because I think that kind of goes about what I was talking about with as far as my career. You know what I mean? Like when you're used to training your body and your mind to one set of way of playing the game, which he did in the 90s. Like you said, you gave the example. That man that was guarding the big man, he got to clear out in the 90s because it's illegal defense. You know what I mean?
You can't guard space.
Right. Because those are the rules that Mike had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike played in the zone era for what, 2 years, a year and a half?
In what, 02 and 03?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, your mindset in what you've been trained your whole life is like, it's kind of like you've been lied to, because now the game changed. You know what I mean? Like you've been lied to. So I understand what he meant by that. I totally get it. I get it, because he has to mentally, he has to think the game differently now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I totally understand what he was saying by that. Now, for Kobe and them, right? This is my beef with Kobe and them. In an era that was freelance, and Kobe played in that hand check era for 3 or 4 years. He struggled.
Yeah.
Right. So for him to tell me,
he was also a baby.
My dude, you became an all-star 4 years in your 4th year in the NBA.
He wasn't even starting, AD. That was for show.
I know. He can't. Hey, that's not my fault. He was also shooting. So it's my fault that he shot 3 air balls in Utah too in the playoffs.
I knew he was gonna fucking bring Utah. You see, I stopped looking at the screen, right? I didn't want to hear okay.
You know what I mean? So I get the devil's advocate from both, man. Like, because Kobe, he got to study the 80s and 90s. So now he gets to pick and choose. Like, yeah, if these niggas could guard me like that, I'll fucking cook them. But then this is my thing though, right? Will he really cook them, because the game is going to be played like the 90s. So that ball is going to be going to the big men like it was your first 3 or 4 years in the NBA.
And you was crying like hell.
And you were struggling with it.
Right.
You were struggling with it. So, yeah, I mean, it has its points. I mean, any of the KD, Kobe, or Melo one-on-one in the 80s and 90s, they're gonna get their shit off. like that's just what that's just what their talent is. but I do question their percentages. I think the only person who still shoots a high percentage is KD.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter.
I think in Kobe's percentage is what, 44 for his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that goes to about 40.
Yeah,
about 40,
So-
42.
I think Kobe gets so many more looks at the rim, kind of like how Mike did, because again, once you buy that one defender, everyone's going to be too far to help you. It's
Now-
you at that point.
So
Now-
here's what.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Les.
It's my fault. No, well,
Go
I
ahead,
just had two little quick counters. One
Go ahead,
is,
Les.
one is like in today.
I'm going to send a dope article about this to the.
Yeah, please.
the
I have two things. Two quick things. So one to you and one to you. One is, but I think the counter to that, the new get the big man out of there thing, is now the game. Everyone switches.
Mhm.
So if you have a good defender on you, since the physicality isn't there for that defender to stay there, they don't fight through the pick anymore. They go under the pick, or they don't even do that. They just switch. So you can switch off to get a better matchup anytime you want now, because the other man, the guarding man, is taught now. Oh well, we'll just switch everything, and then to counter the other point about getting the big out of there. I mean, not just Michael Jordan, like Clyde, Kevin Johnson, all these guards. They got the bigs were, most bigs, not all of them, but most bigs were quick enough to recover to get to the rim to block a lot of shots in that era too.
But
Like
you got to remember this, Les.
Les, I mean,
But Les, this is what you got to remember, right? The offensive sets were not as spread out like they are.
No, they weren't. I'll get
so that recovery that you're talking about is not the same as what Giannis did to Ayton in the finals. You can't name me besides Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson who could even attempt to move like that.
Right. That's a freak show, and that's why they call him a freak.
Like those two, and like
definitely those two.
Right. The rest
maybe
of them,
Alonzo, maybe.
Hell no.
I think Alonzo could move. Alonzo had feet.
He could move, but he ain't have that kind of reach.
But this is what it was about Zoe. He lift too much.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at where Giannis caught that ball at the top of the box, and he was recovering from the pick.
That's what I'm saying, right? That's different, bro.
That's why they play that shit so much, because you can't.
No, they put that on sports science. They put that shit on sports science.
AB, literally, as you're saying that, in my head, I'm like, the only people who could have done that shit, the Admiral and fucking Hakeem.
Yeah, that's it. That's
like, I'm
it
literally
in that
going
era.
through my brain, like, nobody else.
Not Patrick Ewing, not Kevin Duckworth, not James Edwards.
No, definitely not Kevin Duckworth.
Like none of these bigs, like none of them could do it besides Hakeem and David.
Right.
None of them.
And
they're not gonna get up as high as Giannis did.
And real shit, AD, they're not even gonna be able to do it every time.
They're not.
That shit is so difficult. The only people who could like get that shit done at all would be Hakeem and David Robinson, and that's just not consistent. You can't bank on your defender. No coach is going to say, "Hey, this is how we're going to defend this shit." Get screen at the top and meet him at the rim. Like, nah, you can't game plan for that. That's a bucket 99% of the time. Aiden's going to flush that 99.9% of the time.
Right. So this is why I wanted to piggyback too, because I didn't get a chance. Right. Also to you, Noah, because I know your little man's working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we gotta do, right? And this is what I was taught, and this is how I think everybody should be taught. You should be taught to be a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm.
In my era, when I used to train, I was taught to post up, defend the post. Not only do all my guard stuff, but I was taught to be a big man too. I could post up. A basketball player.
That's why Magic can step in at center and get you 42 and 16.
And like a lot of these kids they're getting placed into these roles. You're gonna do this, you're that. Like, no, you're limiting. Don't let these trainers limit your kids, man. Like for real. Let these kids be basketball players.
And meanwhile, we got Kyrie looking fucking prolific out the fucking post at 6'2".
That's what I'm trying to tell
So is that going to disappear?
Would you say?
No.
Is that going to disappear? Is Kyrie is a guard being able to post up like that going to disappear now?
I think that's going to become more frequent. I think that's going to come back even more. See,
you got to remember, there's a bunch of young kids studying Kyrie. The same way Kobe studied Mike and the same way Kyrie studied Kobe. There's kids out here studying Kyrie. Now, granted, like AD said, a lot of Kyrie's shit is just God's given. That's God's work. But in terms of the approach, in terms of the aesthetic, there's a lot of kids who are going to want to do that. And not for nothing, from what I know about Kyrie wanted to do that shit. It wasn't like anyone made him or forced him. Obviously, everyone knew Kyrie was going where he's going very young, very early on. Kyrie took the time out to hit Kobe up, like, yo, Kobe, I'm trying to train. It was his personal desire to want to strengthen these parts of his game. And that's why KD says, every fucking seen him play, he's a fucking master. There's nothing Kyrie Irving can't do on that court. You understand what I'm saying? So there are definitely kids drawing inspiration from Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving's not the only guy to do it. You dig what I'm saying? Like we've seen other guards still live it. Like shit, KD. Obviously, there's very few people who are going to live like KD, but even KD in the post is a fucking nightmare. You don't want. Right. I mean, not for nothing. We're seeing a fucking potential MVP candidate work out the post and work the mid range in DeRozan.
Yeah,
DeRozan will take you right to the low post and do whatever he needs to do and work that mid range game. It doesn't necessarily rely solely on the three. So it's not going to ever be as prevalent as it was. But there's some dudes out there who are inspired by DeRozan, inspired by Kyrie, inspired by KD, who's going to try to model their games after them. And it's work.
I hope so.
It's fucking work. Like it's easy to go out there and do. I mean, what John Morant's doing and do what Donovan Mitchell is doing. No disrespect to either one of them brothers because they play a very high level of basketball. But that's what the teaching is to do that. Is to do what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? To want to do all that extra shit, that's got to be that's internal. Because I'm telling you, I'm in that facility probably 6 hours a week, and they ain't teaching kids anything about if you told a kid to set up in the post, like his feet would probably look crazy. He would have no idea how to do it.
And that's a problem.
Unless I'm talking like my kid's 6. I'm saying if you go tell one of the 12 or 13-year-olds who play 12 and 13 under AAU, tell them to get in the post, set up in the post. That shit will look crazy. He'd be like, what? I don't know what. Like, man, a bunch of my homies is AAU coaches, and I see a lot of the games going on. Like, there ain't none of that, Les. But what I'm saying is the only way that's just going to survive is the dudes who study the game, the dudes who study these dudes who actually do it, and the dudes who want to put the fucking work in. Because working out the post is a hard part of the game. AD will tell you that.
Yeah, it's definitely guarding, playing
post up either shoulder. All of those things. That skill. I mean, that's not just talent. That's a skill that you have to refine. That's hours and hours and hours of training and repetition.
Like you said.
I think the people that excel in playing down there too, they like the contact too. They like to dominate in other people and whatnot.
Y'all should have been in our clubhouse room 2 days ago. One of our frequent dudes in there is Randy Holcomb. Randy played in the NBA.
I know where it is.
Yep, I know you do, AD. Randy's in the room all the time, man. Randy was sharing with us some testimonies of working out with Kobe. And the things he was telling you that Kobe would teach you aren't things that you would find anywhere else. In terms of how much pressure to put in when you do this at the post, how much pressure and where to put the elbow into the defender to know where he's going to move and counting the steps and knowing where the ball of a foot lands. Like, these are intricacies and nuances of a game that a trainer just couldn't teach you. This is someone who's maniacal. This is Kobe studying parts of the game that he knew no one else was. Like the things he was sharing in terms of like just shit that you would never fucking think about unless you were fucking Kobe Bryant. Like It was unbelievable. It was insane. Like the shit he was mentioning had nothing to do with fucking basketball. Like, wait to open up out the post when the defender is exhaling. So when the elbow hits him in the solar plexus, you're like, what the fuck? And this is all shit that Kobe was like passionate about. This is shit he studied and gave the game back to. Man, it's unbelievable. But again, it took dudes reaching out to Kobe, reaching out, wanting to learn how to do these things, man. But I'll say this to kind of wrap it up. We at the 2 hour mark, man. All in all, I think the rule changes have been critical. And if I had to pick or choose which one was more impactful, I would absolutely say the illegal defense rules. When you guys watch this clip, I'm about to show you the study of illegal defense and no illegal defense in terms of what that looks like for an offensive player. When a player can actually guard space, like that's a totally different obstacle. I'd much rather someone have their forearm in my waist than any time. If you're a prolific scorer, I mean, you look at, they're going to focus in on the 2004 finals and kind of what Detroit was doing to Kobe, forcing him into 18-footers. There was no going to the rim because you had your defender, you had the next man's defender hedging into space, and you had the big man up. So when you're looking to get to the rim, it's a defender shading here, and one right there waiting for you. There was no getting to the rim.
You know what that's called, Noah? You know what that's called? Tom Thibodeau tried to bring that. He tried to do that. It's called the amoeba defense.
This shit's nuts.
So
it's what the Spurs did to LeBron in 07.
Right. So what you do is you hug the paint. You hug it. You hug it. You basically tell every player, right? Besides when the spacing, you want every player to have 1 foot in the paint.
Right.
And then recover.
You said it's the amoeba? AD?
Amoeba defense.
And you know what that does? That forces players into the toughest shot on the floor.
Right.
The mid-range. That's why few people need that mid-range.
But do you see where it's at though? It's at the corner / angle. It's right between it. And if you look at the mid-range chart, that is the worst percentage to shoot a mid-range at.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They started and all of these things, even some of these rule changes, the analytics influenced it. It's the analytics that influenced a lot of it.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. Bro.
I had to, AD. We don't got
now, right? Everybody think that analytics just started being used in like the last 10 years.
Oh, they've always been used.
They always been used, but they became a premium when the millennium hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could even take it back to video games with analytics. Real talk. NBA Inside Drive 2004. The rankings were all analytics. It wasn't by the stats. So, for instance, the best player in that game wasn't Shaquille O'Neal. It wasn't Tim Duncan. It wasn't Kobe Bryant. You know who it was? Kevin Garnett. The analytics will tell you that.
Right.
I mean, not the actual eye, but the numbers.
The data.
The data.
But the data, in my opinion, and the numbers are the numbers, but in my opinion, that data has people who shouldn't be doing certain things doing those things.
I mean, that's kind of what analytics is.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
but
what it is.
It ends up looking like bad basketball when you have dudes like, not to crap on my own team like I normally do, but like you can't have Marcus Smart shooting 11 threes a game, dog. Like, luckily now that he's not shooting them that much, look how much better the team looks.
Now, but look at
everyone can
his
shooting that many threes.
Unless you got to look at the percentages, and that's why all these shooters are going to keep telling you go fuck yourself, and they're going to keep shooting these threes.
Right.
You have
shooting three is better than shooting 50% from two.
And that's and you don't understand. I'm trying to tell you.
I guess I don't.
That's why I told you with the white kid. When the kid white is shooting 33, 34%, he can shoot. He can shoot. I'm telling you. Is he Steph Curry? No, but he can shoot it.
Right. Yo, I'm telling you right now, I nothing irks me more than when a big has the ball, gets the rebound, he's right at the basket, you can get two, and then you throw it out to the three for someone to miss the three.
They did real basketball.
Now, I'm gonna tell you this. You know what the highest percentage three shot made is?
Top of the key.
Nope. Off a fucking offensive rebound.
Oh. What's the percentage, if you don't mind me asking? Do you know by chance?
I don't know. NBA TV said it. That's how I know.
But I understand why. Because off of a rebound, everybody's
scattered. Everybody's scattered.
Right.
I
So
mean?
if you
So
get
when
that
you do kick it out,
wide open.
he's wide open.
Man,
He's
fellas,
wide open.
man, we definitely gonna revisit this when we got a full cast on him, man.
Definitely.
Excellent insight, AD. You know we always appreciate the insight. Les, we appreciate the
man.
insight, man. This is SNT Podcast, man. We appreciate y'all tapping in. This was a really good one. We're gonna have the rest of the gang on next time. Make sure you tap into everything we got going on. SNT Sports across all social media platforms. SitandTalkSports.com. See the commish, man. Get your merch. You see the guys all draped out. Make sure you tap in with us over on Facebook. That's the essence of this thing over here, Sit and Talk. Get with us on Clubhouse. Shout out to Smooth, man. Best moderator on the app. Make sure you see what we got going on YouTube. This is SNT Sports, man. We are the intersection of sports and culture.
Peace.